Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Books and Books. Those of you here joining us and those of you watching out in cyberspace, we're very happy to have you with us this evening. Very quickly, if you could take a look at our Books and Books newsletter. We have these out on the counter, of course. If you want to pick up a copy of this while you're picking up one of Mr. Kennedy's books, you can take this. This will give you a rundown, all the wonderful events we have just like this every night of the week here at Books and Books. Better yet, I can hand out this email sign-up sheet. We can give this to you. You can give us your email address so that way your inbox will never be lonely. We send out a lot of emails, but you don't want to miss an event here at the store. We can always have a book autographed for you by whatever specific author is speaking that evening, and we can ship it to you or hold it for you here at the store. But tonight it gives me great pleasure to introduce our official introducer this evening. Jessie Vale Ofieri is the World Literature Editor at the Literary Review, a fiction writer herself, and a graduate of the MFA program at Fairleigh Dickinson University, where she studied under our author this evening, Mr. Thomas Kennedy. Please welcome Jessie Vale Ofieri.
Thank you. Hi. I'm honored to be here tonight to introduce Thomas E. Kennedy. Kennedy is an award-winning essayist, translator, short story writer, and novelist. His latest novel, Kerrigan in Copenhagen, has been described as a Joycean romp through a magical city, a deeply human tale of longing, regret, and desire. Susan Kokel said in the New York Times Sunday Book Review, Kerrigan in Copenhagen is a spiraling exploration of alcohol, history, literature, art, and jazz. Its often stunning prose twirls with the improvisations of the jazz musicians Kerrigan admires. Alan de Botton said, Thomas Kennedy is a true discovery, an author of rare intelligence and moral vision. Thomas E. Kennedy is an astonishment, wrote Junot Diaz. A prolific reader and writer, Tom is as generous with his friends as he is with his prose. Tom has often described writing as his spiritual practice. For the community of writers fortunate enough to be touched by his unflagging generosity, Tom is our patron saint. Please join me in welcoming Thomas E. Kennedy.
Thank you, Jessie. Okay, thanks. And I'd like to thank Steve Kaplan, Victor, and Christina Nasty of Books and Books for hosting me this evening. Scott Cunningham for helping generously with the logistics. To thank you for coming, and the Betsy Hotel and the Plutzik family for their very kind and generous hospitality all this week, as well as Jessie Ofieri for making it all possible. And I'd like to dedicate this reading to Chaim Plutzik, a great poet who died in 1962 at too early an age, as well as to two young artists in the audience named Chloe and Mira, who are just beginning their careers as artists and who I am convinced will excel in their art. Now I'd like to read a short excerpt from the third novel of my Copenhagen quartet, which is titled Kerrigan in Copenhagen and subtitled A Love Story. It's a novel disguised as a guide to the serving houses of Copenhagen, of which there are 1,525. Each chapter takes place in a different serving house, and as you may have guessed, the research was great. But but not tax deductible. This excerpt is from chapter 0 and chapter 1. 0, a love affair. Terence Einhorn Kerrigan is in love. When his wife and child were taken from him, he told himself he would never love a woman again, and he never has, not in the way that requires a surrender of the sovereign spirit. But a man must love nonetheless, and thus a love affair begins this story, a love affair with a city. Here he has made his home, returning after the death of his parents to the city of his mother, a city whose moods are unpredictable, unfathomable, unimpeachable as a woman's, often still and dark, perfidious as its April weather, now light and sweet as the touch of a summer girl who fancies you, now cold as snow, false as ice, merciless as the howling, beating wind which swoops around his building. Now quietly enigmatic as the stirring of the great chestnut trees which line the banks of the lake beneath his windows. The city is Copenhagen, the city of the Danish smile and blue eye, the Danish national character that one of its great unknown sons, Tom Christensen, described in his great unknown 1930 novel, Hærværk, made into a great unknown 1977 film, Havoc, as, quote, false blue eyes and blonde treachery. Here he will clothe himself in its 1,000 years of history. Let its wounds be his wounds. Let its poet's songs fill his soul. Let its food fill his belly. Its drink temper his reason. Its jazz sing in the ears of his mind. Its light and art and nature and seasons wrap themselves about him and keep him safe from chaos. It is the city of 100 vices and 1,500 serving houses, bars, cafes, more of them than one will ever come to know in a lifetime without a very major effort. Kerrigan has decided to make that effort. He came to Copenhagen to find serenity, to find a life, and was surprised to find love, and then astonished to lose it. And he searched for it, searched his heart for it. But like Gilgamesh, he kept finding instead a divine alewife who filled his glass and chanted, Kerrigan, Kerrigan, whither rovest thou? What you seek you shall not find. Rather, let full be your belly. Make merry day and night, and forget the darkness. Of each day make you a feast of light. Let your raiment be sparkling and fresh. Wash your head and bathe in water. Scrape smooth the stubble from your jowls, and reach for the hand of the little one who reaches for yours. Lay with the woman who delights in you, for this is the greatest a man can achieve. Kerrigan agrees, even if there is no little one anymore. Gone the woman who delights in him, gone, and that is how all stories end, with the naked, withered Christmas tree tilted against the trash barrel. Yet he knows no better city in which to follow the alewife's bidding as far as he is able. He does not know precisely how many serving houses there are in Copenhagen. He has not yet decided how many of them he will visit, over what time scale, or how many of them he will include in his book. He has no idea what might happen in each of the places he visits, what adventures he might encounter, what dark nights of the soul he might descend to, what radiant bodies he might win with a flattering tongue. And not to know, he decides, is good. Chapter 1, Kerrigan's Associate. And this chapter has an epigraph from Raphael Holinshead, something he said in 1577, quote, "Whiskey, it keepeth the reason from stifling." Kerrigan's path to meet his research associate and her jade green eyes leads him diagonally across the botanical gardens to Norport. He hoofs over to Fjolstræde. Then, at the intersection of Skinnagather, it occurs to him that he still has some time, and that there are three choices open to him. There are always three choices. He has a good hour before he will meet his associate and considers whether to turn left to the book trader, right to Charlie Scott's pub, or continue directly forward through York's Passager to Farrelly's Irish Rover. If he goes left to the book trader at Skinnagather 23, he will enjoy the company of his good friend, the antiquarian bookseller Lars Rasmussen, in addition to the possible company of an artist and a bookbinder, Natasha and Eben, two lovely young women who are often there, and diverse others, artists, singers, musicians, poets, professors, writers, a criminologist friend named Dave, who researches break-ins, an ornithologist in the employ of Kastrup Airport to keep the birds from making trouble, and a found art practitioner who collects what she calls kussesten, stones found along the beach and in the forest that resemble kusse, Danish for cunt, thus cunt stones. Danes rarely call a spade a shovel. At the book trader, Kerrigan would stand leaning on the remainders table of books for $1.50, 10 crowns, beneath the elaborate plaster sculpture on the ceiling titled The Book Lovers by Caspar Holton, a wreath of 9 naked figures coiling out of a book, each performing some variety of erotic act on the next, and the whole wreath of them spiraling toward a distant heart. But he will also be tempted to drink the wine poured liberally by Lars into glasses that hold more than they would appear to. And on top of what he has had already, he will get drunk and show up late and sloppy to meet his associate. And he does not wish to see his bad behavior reflected in her green eyes. If he goes right to Charlie Scott's at Skinnagather 53, he will have the opportunity to enjoy Jazz Under the Stairs, featuring the astonishingly energetic Australian clarinetist and singer Chris Tanner, and possibly bump into guitarist and composer Billy Cross, who is the nephew of Lionel Trilling and does the best arrangement of blue suede shoes that Kerrigan has ever heard, and who, inter alia, has been lead guitar for Bob Dylan, and occasionally comes into Charlie Scott's. Although there, Kerrigan no doubt would drink many pints of inexpensive Pilsner and will also be drunk and late for his associate. On the third hand, he is more hungry than he is thirsty. He has been roaming this mid-morning and early afternoon around the north side, sampling pints here and there, and wandered past the building at St. Hansgather 18, where Knut Hamsun in 1890 wrote the novel Hunger, about a consciousness starving to express itself. Kerrigan is literally feeling peckish, and he knows that if he walks straight ahead through York's Passager, a half turn to the right will put him at Vimmelskaftet 46 on the pedestrian street, outside Farrelly's Irish Rover, where at all hours he can get a full or alternatively a diminutive Irish breakfast served by his favorite Irish-American waitress, Kathy. His choice has been chosen. It's a bit nippy for the outdoor tables, so he steps inside the great dark cave of the bar, and Kathy greets him instantly with her Chicago accent. "Gad, Kerrigan, where you been hiding? Want Irish breakfast? Big or little?" "Little, please." You always let me down, Kerrigan. Round and blue-eyed, with some manner of sweet street-smart curl to her lips, she approaches his table with cutlery wrapped in a skimpy green paper napkin and a tumbler of ice and amber fluid. "What's this?" Kerrigan asks with alarm and sips. "It's Patty's," she whispers. "And keep your voice down, can't you? You want to get me in trouble?" "A goddamn full glass of Irish whiskey? I can't drink all this on top of what I already had." "Ah, you fucking drama queen. I have a meeting with my research associate, and you don't want to fuck that up. I can't drink this. You always disappoint me, Kerrigan. Get it down your neck now. It's good for you." Despite himself, he sips the patties, knowing he must come up for a spell of air soon, and suddenly knows that that air must be the air of Dublin, fort of the Dane, garrison of the Saxons, on the banks of the River Liffey. Why, he wonders, does he feel he must go to Dublin? The compulsion seems to take force from a constellation of coincidences. The fact that the lake outside of the window of his east side apartment here is called Sotterdamsoo, which means Black Dam Lake. And Dublin means dark pool, and his own name, Kerrigan, is originally Chiarogan, a double diminutive of Chiat, dark, black. That, incredibly, his mother's maiden name was Mork, Danish for dark. He discovered these facts one by one with an increasing sense of amazement. Moreover, Dublin was also founded by the Danes 1,200 years ago, and his branch of the Kerrigans originated, according to his father, on the curving street that is said to be the bank of the dark pool into which the Vikings sailed. He intuits a connection between the dark pool and the Black Lake, between the Vikings there and the Irish here, between his Irish father and his Danish mother, and the origin of his name, that he might find a life in wrapping the cloak of these international, cross-cultural, historical facts around him, the life and love that had been stolen from him by Leisha. This is at least part of it. This is definitely part of it, part of what he must fill his mind with. Sometimes, lying in his solitary bed some nights, some mornings, he feels disconnected from all of time, existing purely in the present, as though he has had no past, as though he only just arrives each moment in the present, and all of the past is mere illusion. The future melting back into the present disappearing in the unfathomable, bottomless past. Maybe, he thinks, I have been drinking too much. The time is not right, he knows, to go to Dublin. First, he must meet his newly employed associate and must begin his project with her. He manages to get out of the Irish Rover after only one whiskey by leaving money on the table, ducking out while Kathy's in the back. He dodges around to Skinnagather again, heading for Floddick's Bag, where he is to meet his associate at the wine room 90. And now it is there again, the illusion. Suddenly the day is gone, and he and his associate sit close in the little taxi, knees touching occasionally, by accident, Kerrigan wonders. Late afternoon pastel facades of West Copenhagen reel past the window on either side. Secretly, he hopes their project will never conclude. Quite another matter is his associate herself, a handsome woman of 57 years, who in her youth was a beauty. Why is a young girl so pretty, and why does it last so short a time? Søren Kierkegaard asked in Either Or. On the other hand, his associate is not bad at all. Not bad at all, Kerrigan speculates. Anyway, he himself is only a year younger. His project, what he has contracted for, what he is being paid to do, is to select a sampling of 100 of the best, the most historic, the most congenial of Copenhagen's 1,525 serving houses, and write them up for one of a 100-volume travel guide, The Great Bars of the Western World. Kerrigan thinks of himself as a failed poet, which is a less complicated concept than a failed human being. And he has accepted this commission under false pretenses. He does not wish the book to be written. He wants only to research it forever, for whatever of forever remains him. They have just come from Wine Room 90 in the Frederiksberg section, an elegant old establishment which, however, drove him to distraction because of the management's insistence that beer be tapped in accordance with some scientific principles which involve frequent work with a spatula in foam and take 20 minutes to draw a single pint, which meant for him more thirst than the quaffing of it. If it takes 20 minutes to tap a pint and 10 minutes to drink it, a serious time deficit is involved. The minutes haunt him with their mocking brevity. All glasses are essentially empty, defining an empty space. Every clock wears the face of a pompously indifferent sadist, measuring life's depletion with a series of equally measured hand strokes. Kerrigan is the writer, his associate the researcher, he the form, she the content. Or, in another more hopeful context, she will be the form and he will be the content. As a body fills a grave, he thinks, remembering a line from Malamud's Pictures of Fiedelman. Kerrigan is a man of quotes. They substitute nicely for thought. And he is well versed in dates, which seem to place him in history, in relation to persons and events. It is nice to be placed and to have a substitute for thought. He is aware of this, as well as of the double bind of his ironic nature. No matter. Enivrez-vous. Could man be drunk forever on liquor, love, or fights? Leaf would I rise of morning, and leaf lie down of nights. He feels himself perched on the edge of the turning millennium, knows what this past millennium contained, or at least, to some extent, the last 56 years of it. Yet the contents of the next seem to him like science fiction. Why must it take so long to fill my glass? He demanded of her, nursing the little bit of beer remaining of his first pint. You have an interesting accent, she said. Where did you learn your Danish? In bed, snapped Kerrigan. Did you have many instructors? She asked with a teasing curl to her lip. He chuckled, sipped a drop of the remaining beer. You didn't answer my question, he said. Why does it take so long? On the table before her was a slender moleskine notebook filled with the minute, spidery scrawl of her penmanship, a seemingly endless cornucopia of facts. She ran her slender, chiseled finger down the handwritten contents page, thumped with a red-pointed fingernail the line that she was seeking, and flipped halfway through the book. I have that right here, she said with a smile. They tap it very slowly so the acid foams off, giving it a soft and stomach-friendly taste. Stomach-friendly? He said with a smirk. Her smile was both warm and sphinx-like, slightly naughty, for she could see, he saw, that when he looked into her luminous, in this light, forest green eyes, the pupil ringed with a thin circle of distinct tan, he was harboring naughty thoughts about her. This was the first time she had assisted him. This was not the first time she had assisted him with research. Last time they worked together, they were close to getting involved, and almost did, but not quite. He was about to be a husband then, soon to be a father. Free now, he would not mind taking up where they left off then. though he deeply and sincerely does not want to get involved. Thank you very much. Thanks. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions or comments or complaints? Yes.
Okay, well, since you did some research in Copenhagen, I was wondering, are there comparisons to be made on drinking in Copenhagen compared to drinking in Ireland? Of course, they're known for their for drinking a good bit.
The Irish have nothing on the Danes. And, you know, I say that as an Irish American myself, 50% Irish American. You know, the Danes, they drink when they eat, you know, like the French do. But they drink beer and schnapps and eat all sorts of fishes. And the Irish tend not to eat when they drink, which makes them drunker. You know? Yes. Sure.
I read that for the books in this quartet, you adopt a different writing style for each, depending on the season of the year that book takes place. I found that very interesting, and I was curious, in your previous work, your previous short stories, do you also adopt a different voice to tailor to the theme or the content of the story, or had you previously found a voice that was yours that permeated your work?
No, I don't believe in, you know, they used to talk about a writer finding his voice. But I think that a writer has many voices. And I think, you know, the voice is, you know, one of my teachers used to say, vision dictates form. And, you know, I think vision dictates voice too. And, you know, I mean, as many stories as I've written, I have many different voices. You know, maybe I stick with a voice for a while, you know, for half a dozen or 10 stories. And then I will go on to something else. But the 4 books of the Copenhagen Quartet were really dictated by the season of Copenhagen. You know, I wanted to live in Copenhagen because of the light, among many other things. But the light particularly attracted me. And, you know, the winter book is noir because it's so dark in Copenhagen in winter. It's dark from like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, just before 4 o'clock in the afternoon until just before 10 o'clock in the morning. And, you know, the light that you have during those hours of daylight is dusky, and it's very moody. And so, of course, that book had to be noir. The summer book, you know, you get the light back in the summer, and the birds start to sing at 2:30 in the morning, and it gets light, you know, just before 3 a.m., and it stays light, you know, the sky stays light. You know, you have these beautiful yellow skies until just before 10 p.m., I think. And I thought, you know, amidst all that light, it would be interesting to tell a story of a torture survivor who was being treated in the torture rehabilitation center, which one of the very first was opened in Copenhagen, if not the first. You know, I got involved with that theme, and I guess that book has a social conscience or something. And then in the spring book, well, this is the spring book, and of course that had to be a love story, a story about a broken heart and a heart, that may be men's or not. I'm not going to tell you. And the fall book, the autumn book, was about the fall of a Danish company, and that was falling sideways. And yeah, so that's convenient that autumn has that name, fall too, and that's a satire.
I imagine that as soon as you conceive of the content or the mood of one of the stories, then the voice is obvious to you. Going into the project, you already know what the voice is going to be depending on the mood, right?
Well, I think that the voice kind of dictates, what the story is going to be, and until I find the voice, I really am nowhere. I'm working on a 1960s novel now, set in the United States, and I hitchhiked around the United States during the 60s, and my editor and my agent have said that you should write a novel set in the United States now, and I'm sort of writing the story about my hitchhiking around, but I haven't found the voice yet. Maybe I found it this week in Miami on the rooftop bar, at the rooftop bar in the Betsy Hotel. But maybe that was the Stella Artois, convincing me. Yes, ma'am. I think you have to wait for the microphone. Yeah, it's okay.
Is there much interaction between northern Germany and Denmark related to other circulations of the Baltic?
Well, we lost much of southern Denmark to Germany in 1864, and there is interaction. There are whole villages in northern Germany where they speak Danish, and where they understand Danish, actually, and well, there's interaction in the Baltic between Sweden and Norway and Finland and the North Sea. I don't know if that addresses your question.
Just general curiosity. What took you to Denmark? I understand perhaps if your background mirrors Kerrigan's, then you have some ancestry. But what took you over there? How long have you been over there?
Well, I like to say I've been half my life there, and the third half of my life will be there too. I was always attracted to Europe, and I thought I would live in France, actually. And I was offered a job in France in the early 70s. And but then the company I was working for sent me to a conference in Denmark, and I just fell in love with the place right off. And I said, this is where I want to live. And it was a combination of the light and the people, the beer, and you know, many factors: the architecture, the cobblestone streets, and also I was living. Actually, before then, I was living in New York City in the early '70s, and New York City was, you know, if you might, some of you might know, was not a very pleasant place in the early '70s, and I got lost the first night that I was in Copenhagen, and I felt perfectly, you know, I was wandering down these narrow, dark streets with hearing my heels ring on the cobblestones, and I felt perfectly safe, and I felt at home, and so that really attracted me to Denmark. And you know, I've never regretted moving there. I've lived there since '76. Both of my children were born there. Both of my wives were Danish. And well, you know, I've never regretted it. Yes.
Response to the first question, you referred to yourself as an Irish writer, and I think on the book jacket it refers to the story as being Joycean and the journey, and I'm wondering if at this point in your career, having employed such a spectrum of voices and pursued different styles, is it irksome to have people compare you still to your influences? And also, I've heard that aspiring Irish writers who are post-Joyce have to like live with the ghost of Joyce, and is that a burden, and is it annoying?
I love to be compared to Joyce. You know, David Applefield, who was the editor of Frank magazine, once said Kennedy has done with this book for Copenhagen what Joyce has done for Dublin, and that, of course, was a wild hyperbole, but I welcomed it. And, you know, I think Joyce is as contemporary as anybody, you know. So it does not irk me. But thanks for the question. Yes?
You said something about that each chapter takes place in a different serving house. Is that, did it really feel like the story was demanding that, or was that sort of, you know, something else? Or
well, I sort of I followed my normal routes, you know, from serving house to serving house, and sometimes, you know, I had to eliminate a serving house because, you know, it just didn't fit in with the action, with the narrative. And lest you think that there are 1,525 chapters, there are not. There are only 50 chapters which take place in Copenhagen, and 7 chapters which take place in Dublin, and there are 2 repeat pubs in the book. So. Maybe that's it. Yes.
How often do you write?
I'm kind of writing all the time. You know, I'm at least taking notes, and I like to write on vehicles, you know, on planes and trains and buses, and I like to write in cafes, and I like to write when I get up in the morning. You know, the first pot of coffee that I brew, and I start writing, and I write by hand. But I don't write every day, but I'm sort of writing all the time, you know. So I don't know.
Having embarked upon this and having been a writer your whole life, do you now have a greater idea of what is behind sort of the love story between literature and booze, and why it's so prevalent? Why, like, the great writers are sort of notoriously hard drinkers?
Oh, well, I'm not a hard drinker. I don't drink anymore. I don't drink any less either. But, well, I guess I don't know. I think drink keeps the reason from stifling, as Raphael Hollinshead said. Why is there? Other professions drink too. Priests drink. Maybe that's it. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody, once again for coming. We appreciate you being here. Please pick up a copy, Mr. Kennedy's book. We also have a selection, or most of his backlist as well. If you're watching out there, you can always call the store. We can get a book signed for you and hold it for you or ship it to you. Mr. Kennedy will be signing right over here at this table. Please pick up your copy. Stick around for the rest of the night. Thanks so much for coming.